You are watching The Word Exposed. Here we will try to listen to God who speaks to us today through the sacred scriptures. Join me in beholding the truth of God's unwavering love for us. Today is Pentecost Sunday. We are celebrating the glorious coming of the Holy Spirit to the first disciples in the upper room that paved the way to the public manifestation of the church. The Holy Spirit is the inner life of God. It is the love that binds the Father and the Son. In the Holy Spirit, we are strengthened to fulfill our mission to bring the good news to everyone in a way that they will understand in spite of our diversity. My friends, let us invoke the Holy Spirit so that our mission may bear fruits of compassion, solidarity, peace, and justice in our home, society, and the church. According to Jesus, the Holy Spirit will not invent new truth. The Holy Spirit will lead us to the truth that Jesus has already taught. When you have the Holy Spirit, you can speak and explore different languages to address people of different needs. Barriers and boundaries of discrimination, division, and injustice should disappear. The diversity of the gifts should not be a hindrance to the strengthening of the church. God chooses all.
A reading from the Acts of the Apostles. When the time for Pentecost was fulfilled, they were all in one place together. And suddenly there came from the sky a noise like a strong driving wind, and it filled the entire house in which they were. Then there appeared to them tongues as of fire, which parted and came to rest on each one of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in different tongues, as the Spirit enabled them to proclaim. Now there were devout Jews from every nation under heaven staying in Jerusalem. At this sound they gathered in a large crowd, but they were confused, because each one heard them speaking in his own language. They were astounded, and in amazement they asked, "Are not all these people who are speaking Galileans? Then how does each of us hear them in his native language? We are Parthians, Medes, and Elamites, inhabitants of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt and the districts of Libya near Cyrene, as well as travelers from Rome, both Jews and converts to Judaism, Cretans and Arabs. Yet we hear them speaking in our own tongues of the mighty acts of God." The Word of the Lord.
Our first reading on this Pentecost Sunday comes from the second chapter of the Acts of the Apostles. Pentecost. Well, this was a traditional Jewish feast. 50 days after the Passover, they gather again in Jerusalem for what they call Pentecost. It is a celebration of harvest time and also a commemoration of the old covenant forged by God with His people on Mount Sinai. Now, 50 days after the Passover of Jesus, we have a new Pentecost and a new covenant in the sending of the Holy Spirit. This partly explains why, according to the account of the first reading, we have in Jerusalem at this time many devout Jews from different nations. You have Parthians, Medes, and Elamites. Those who lived in Mesopotamia, Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt, and the regions of Libya, Now, because of the Jewish feast of Pentecost, but they also were witnesses of the new Pentecost, the coming of the Holy Spirit, a gift of the risen Lord. The one who ascended into heaven sits at the right hand of the Father. Now, Father and Son pours to the whole world their beloved Holy Spirit. In fact, many people say that Pentecost is the culmination, the apex of the Paschal mystery of Christ. The whole thing, the whole mystery of Christ's mission, suffering, death, resurrection, and ascension into heaven would lead to the sending of the Holy Spirit. Because the Holy Spirit is holy, meaning the Spirit of God, the Spirit of the Father and Son in love and power, and invisible because of that, filled with mystery, the Bible, especially the first reading, would talk about the Holy Spirit using images that are familiar to us. But again, these images speak of the deep reality of the Holy Spirit. The first image used is the wind, the mighty wind. The word for spirit is breath. And breath is associated with life. So the coming of the Holy Spirit is the coming of life, and not just any life. It is life from God and the life of God. Now, another image used in the first reading is fire, tongues of fire. Now, fire connotes ardor. Ardor. The flame that makes someone ardent, vigor. So, the Holy Spirit does not only enliven, but gives us courage. And we will know later for what. And the third image used is the tongues. Different languages. The disciples, upon receiving the tongues of fire, were able to speak in different languages, leading to mutual understanding, a new community, a new covenant, a new body generated by the life of God, generated by the ardor, the fire of God, producing a new set of disciples. Now, these disciples were greatly changed when they received the Holy Spirit on Pentecost. We know that they used to be fearful. That's why they were in the upper room. They were hiding from the Jews. But with the Holy Spirit, new life, new vigor, they came out and they became missioners. So it is vigor for mission, vigor to proclaim Jesus as the one sent by the Father. And then tongues. You know, these were Galileans. That's why these the Jews from other nations said, upon listening to the Galileans, they said, "Were these not Galileans? How come they can speak to us in our languages?" So a new set of people emerges from the gift of the Holy Spirit, producing a new language. So the Holy Spirit present in the disciples tells us there is possibility for new life. The Holy Spirit can recreate us. New life, new vigor, new mission.